Oh, I'm going to put just as much effort into this intro as the Dallas Mavericks did.
Coming up next, I'll tell you who's behind Mavrello.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, contributor at Mavs.com, the Mavrello man, the One More Thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Nick, how's the gas shortage going on in Florida right now?
Oh man, it's fine. Nothing's gone crazy yet.
Because the Mavericks ran out of gas tonight.
But that was bad. That was bad.
I'm a dad, guys. I can do this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the Ultra Player of the Week. All right, let's be a little serious. The Dallas Mavericks lose to the Memphis Grizzlies 104-133. There's just some problems in this game, and a lot of it just stems from effort. The Mavericks didn't get up for this game, and I feel like a broken record now, and I may have to only do this a couple more times the rest of the season, but the Mavericks just don't get up for games like this when they don't necessarily respect. Is that the right word? Respect the opponent, or consider the opponent to be the upper echelon? Like, it's not the Nets, it's not the the Lakers, it's not the Clippers, it's not the Jazz, it's not any of these teams. And so they just go in and they don't show the effort. And yeah, it was just one of those games again.
Yeah, I don't even know if I want to put it in the same category as like the Kings or something like that, because Memphis is a playoff team, and it took them, a crazy floater from Luka to beat them last time. What was it, a week or so ago?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't, but from the effort that the Mavs showed, and even the last game, right? The whole game, we said that even that last game that they won against the Grizzlies, where Luka hit that game winner, the crazy one.
Yeah.
We were like, they should have lost that game because they just didn't have it. They didn't bring it and all that. And so, I don't know, if you just go by their actions or their effort, then they may not.
Yeah, and there was no reason for them to lose this game. I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't play in this game. Valanciunas didn't play in this game.
The Jaren Jackson Jr. thing is kind of strange. I've been watching some Grizzlies games recently. It's kind of like a Porzingis situation for them. Like he's been up and down, and playing without him has actually made them a little bit more open, and like their offense has been clearer and all that kind of stuff. The same sort of situation as Porzingis in a way. They're like, in a sense, they're better without him on the court statistically. Now, overall, are they going to be better? No, it's the same thing with Porzingis.
But it's like, this is another example that, we have more than a handful at this point, that, going back to your effort point, that when Dallas plays in some of these games against some of these opponents like Memphis, that they just want it more. And I think I know this, the stat isn't the end all tell all of that, but I think the difference in fast break points was,
Huge.
I think a difference of like 18 points, something around there.
The Mavs had 6 and the Grizzlies had 21.
Okay. So 15-point difference in that.
Still, that's a lot though.
But yeah, it is a lot. And, they're just faster. And for people who want to just put, these type of games on KP's head, KP didn't play in this game. So you can't pull the KP card on this and be like, well, KP didn't try, and all that. Nope, you can't do that. And this was, we'll talk a lot about Luka Doncic. He said right after the game, he said, hey, this is one of the worst games I've played in my career so far. And I think we can all agree with that.
He scored 12 points, 4 of 16 from the field, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 turnovers, and all of them were like live ball and bad, right? Like a lot of those led to those fast break points, like you said. The Mavericks only had 12 turnovers as a team, but it seemed like every single one of them was live ball turnover where they turned it over and it led to points almost directly, all those fast break points and all that. And it was a very just sloppy, bad game for the Mavericks. Porzingis would have helped a little bit, but in this game, the Grizzlies' offensive rating was 143. That means the Mavs' defensive rating was 143. The Mavs just couldn't defend anybody. They couldn't stop anybody. Dylan Brooks was making some really tough shots at the end.
I'm not a fan of that guy.
No,
there's something about him.
Yeah, as a
I
player,
don't know.
as a player, he's very up and down. Grizzlies fans were like, "Hey, you guys want to slightly use Dylan Brooks?" If your fans are ready to get that player off the team, I'm not necessarily sure that's a good deal if you want to trade or get that guy. But yeah, Dylan Brooks was making some tough shots. And then they just made their threes. I mean, 16 of 33 on the Grizzlies threes. They shot 40, almost 50% of their threes. That's just not, you're not going to win games if you're giving up bad turnovers like that and you're letting them shoot the three. And then the Mavericks couldn't match it, which how can you match 140 offensive rating, right? Just you'd have to shoot a crazy percentage, and they didn't. 12 of 38 from three. That's only 31%. They, didn't out rebound them by a crazy number. They actually got out rebounded. The Mavericks did by 9. And so, just effort, all that. I mean, it's just another one of these games again, it feels like.
Dallas gave them the 3-pointer, like you said, but, they capitalized on that, and they're like, hey, we'll take advantage of that, because look at, Memphis's season average this year from the 3-point line. They average 11 made threes a game. They average 31 attempts per game. They average 35% from three per game. Now, look at those numbers in this game. They shot 48 threes in this game. They average 31 threes a game. They shot
they hit 48%. They took 33 of them.
Okay. So a little bit over their average of how many they attempt, but their average, they
just made more than their.
Yeah. They average 11 made threes a game, and they hit 18 tonight, 16 tonight. And they averaged 35% from three. They shot 48% from three tonight. They hit the three, and they didn't have Grayson Allen, who hit 6 threes against us last time we played.
No, but they did have John Konkar, who he had 18 points. Do you remember a single one of them off the top of your head?
No.
We play this game every once in a while.
I remember a 3 he hit. Yeah.
I don't know if I can remember. He scored 18 points, and they're all forgettable. How can maybe I didn't watch the game close enough, but it just you can kind of tell. It just looks like this game is going to be one that the Mavericks lose. They were not leading after the first quarter. It was 28-27, so that record's still intact. And then that third quarter was just where it kind of just went from bad to worse, right? 36 points for the Grizzlies. The Mavericks only scored 25 in that third quarter, and they got out to that lead, and they basically just never gave it up after that. And coming up, I want to get into a change that Carlisle made, and this is a conversation we can start talking about playoff rotations and who's going to be the changes. What are the different kind of looks that the Mavericks can throw out? Because Carlisle threw out a look and a lineup that just completely baffled me, and I'm very confused on it. We'll get into it coming up, but before we do, we have to talk about the Michelob Ultra Player of the Week, Isaac Harris. Let's throw in some nominations. So if today is the 12th, let's go all the way back to Wednesday the 5th. Who are some nominations for Ultra Player of the Week for the Dallas Mavericks?
Oh, man. I don't know. A couple guys. I mean, if we could always talk about Luka, but a couple guys off the top of my head. Tim Hardaway, I think we gave it to Tim Hardaway last week. But you want to lean into the Josh Green love a little bit?
I may lean into some Josh Green love.
I think Willie's played, pretty well as of late. Josh Richardson, I think he's had, a couple games before this one. But
the crazy thing about Luka is if you take it back to the 5th, last Wednesday, Luka's played 4 games. The Mavericks are 3-1 in those games. So that means it's the Brooklyn win, the 2 Cleveland wins, and then the loss against this Memphis Grizzlies team. Luka averaged 18 points this week.
That's funny.
It's just that number looks so strange. He shot 36% from the field, 25% from 3, under 5 assists on average this week. So
because he got ejected, and then he had a horrible game tonight, and then I think he didn't play the fourth quarter against
the first Cavs game. Yes, yeah. He just didn't. So I'm gonna give it to Tim Hardaway Jr. 22 points on average, shot 50% from 3 this week, and had and plus minus was 10 on average. Luka's was minus 1.3. So if you look at that, his impact on the court, we could give a little love to Josh Green, I think, just for some impact here and there. But I think Tim Hardaway, man, he's been rocking and rolling, and he's been doing exactly what you want the Michelob Ultra Player of the Week to do, Isaac Harris. It's only worth it if you enjoy it, and you should play Tim Hardaway Jr. more. That's what you should do. That's worth it.
But are you happy because you win, or do you win because you're happy?
The Mavericks are sad because they lost tonight. 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. Joy creates success. Enjoyment isn't the end game. It's the whole game. Michelob Ultra Player of the Week, Tim Hardaway Jr.
Maybe they lost because they were sad, though.
All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into this game. So there's a change that I mentioned. The Mavericks were down. The largest lead for the Grizzlies at this point.
Change of ownership, Mavrello?
For Mavrello Balovic. 4 minutes and 15 seconds left in the third quarter. The Mavericks are down by, or there's just a little bit, about 4 minutes and 30. The Mavericks are down by 9. It was the largest lead of the game for the Grizzlies at that point. And then Carlisle decides to change it up. He decides to throw it. We talked about how the Mavericks have a couple of guys now that they can throw in to just change it up, to just change the pace. Josh Green is a guy like this. Boban's obviously a guy like this. Trey Burke can kind of be a guy like this. JJ Redick, I guess, can be and may not be anymore. We'll get into him in a minute. But just a bunch of different lineups you can throw out there to try and just change the pace, because they have a bunch of guys that just kind of sit at the end of their bench and don't necessarily play regular rotation minutes. So he decides to go with Boban. So the Luka and Boban combination, which is a classic. Let's just change the pace of the game a little bit. Let's get some automatic buckets from Luka and Boban. And then he puts out Maxey with them, which kind of makes sense. You want to play a little defense. It was Maxey's first game back in a little while from the sore Achilles.
Definitely rusty.
He was definitely rusty. Did not look like himself still. And then Brunson and Burke, the water bucks, he put out there with him. And that lineup, I'm going to go look it up on Cleaning the Glass right now, because that lineup has to just be one of the worst on the Mavericks, because anytime they're in there, it's something about those two together. Just bring out the worst in the other one. And I don't know why. It doesn't really make sense for them to do that, but it just doesn't really make any sense. It may be because Trey Burke just does not pass and cannot pass, because, man, there's a couple times tonight I was like, hit the roller, and maybe the window was too short for him, but that just didn't work out. And the Grizzlies just extended their lead after that into the third quarter, and just any kind of momentum the Mavericks could have seized back with a lineup change like that, they did not get. And so I was very disappointed, I guess, but also just confused about that change that Carlisle made.
Well, yeah, the third quarter was just, a disaster. They won that quarter by 11 points. They scored 36 points in that third quarter. Memphis did. They went into the fourth quarter with 96 points. And anytime a team is within 5 points of 100 going into the fourth quarter, then your defense is sucking. So that's where Dallas is at. So I actually didn't mind him throwing out Boban. I'm with you on the combination of players around that, because I'm all about, hey, you just got to throw it when offense is not working. Previously, this was, let's break the glass and say, let's throw JJ Barea out there. And whenever you just need something else different, you want to muck it up, you want to bring something, something new to the offense to just give it a different look. Boban is kind of in a way that right now of like, hey, let's just throw Boban in the game. Let's work it down in the post with him some and just give some type of different look. It's just a combination, because when you have Brunson, when you have Trey Burke, even though Trey Burke is, trying really hard on defense right now, he had that stretch there. They're just going to put Boban in pick and rolls for days. So you need, fast defenders around. And honestly, I know we crack jokes about the whole, sometimes the fan base gets obsessed about the Josh Green thing of like, man, if Josh Green played, we'd win. Also, I was kind of thoroughly confused of why Josh Green didn't play.
This would have been the perfect game for him. They were getting out hustled.
Yeah.
They were getting outplayed, the fast break. Like, you would at least had a guy that would catch up.
I don't think he would have
transition.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying that Josh Green plays 35 minutes, they win this game. I was kind of confused of like, especially when you get down 15-20, you're getting out hustled. Your defense is not playing well. Let's throw in a guy who's gonna give a crap and tries to play some defense and stuff like that. So I didn't understand that. I don't know how much it would have changed the impact or the ending of the game.
Yeah, I think they could have. That was the turning point for me, where they could have just seized back some momentum. They could have taken that 9-point lead and turned it into, a 1-point lead, or even taken the lead back, right, with just a couple possessions. They're only 3 possessions away from tying the game, basically, at that point.
Yeah.
And so they could have done that, and then that was the change that Carlisle went with. And then it kind of just blew up on them after that. Memphis was up by, like you said, 14 points at the end of the third quarter, and then they just took it to another level in the first couple of minutes. Dwight gets ejected. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then the momentum was completely out of it. Luka sits, and then it's kind of done after that. The Waterbugs lineup, by the way, any lineup with Brunson and Burke together is actually a +2 net rating.
Get off of them.
However, the offensive rating is 109.7, so way lower than the Mavericks' normal offensive rating. So it's definitely a downgrade for them. And some of these lineups, like some of them are like, there's a random lineup of the Waterbugs, Richardson, Finney-Smith, and Porzingis. That's a +41 net rating. Like they just destroyed a team.
Interesting.
But then he switched Dorian with Maxey. It's a -15. It's just
wow.
Just a very strange combination. So I'm still holding on to the fact that those two together are just not good. But yeah, I think that was the big turning point of the game. And so do we want to move on to? We'll move on to something else. We talked about Luka. It was his worst game of the season. JJ Redick, man.
Can we just say Luka real quick? It's okay for Luka to have bad games. Like it's perfectly like I'm not. It's like, hey, Luka just didn't have it tonight, and I don't think there's any huge, like opinions, conclusions you can come away from this game. At least not for me. It's like, all right, our top 6, top 5 player in the league had a bad game. That's part of it. And when you're missing the second best player on the team, the second max player guy, and you don't have some of the other, star players as a third or fourth option, like some teams, have out there, then it's really going to be magnified when Luka has a pretty bad game. So I just wanted to say that real quick. But anyway,
absolutely. If you want to start looking at some trends, Luka, last couple of games here from 3. This is going back to the Washington game. So basically the start of May. 1 of 6, 1 of 7, 5 of 10 against Miami, 5 of 13 against Brooklyn, 1 of 5, 0 for 2, and then tonight, 0 for 4. So the 3-point shot has not gone down for him. It kind of is the key to his game at this point, especially if he just doesn't have the legs and honestly is disinterested, right? Like if he's disinterested in a game, then he has to have that 3-ball go, or else the whole rest of the game, he doesn't light up, right? He needs something to energize himself. 1,000 fans in Memphis are not going to do that for him.
He's saving that energy for the playoffs.
I'd rather him do that, but the way that he's playing, now is not just going to energize him and take him to that next level to become interested in the game. And I think that's fine. And not everybody is Westbrook, and you don't want everybody to be Westbrook necessarily all the time.
No.
So JJ Redick is what I wanted to bring up next. Man, has he played his last game as a Maverick? It kind of feels like it.
No. I don't want to say that.
I know you're Mr. Optimism, but he hurt his heel again.
I mean, he was back on the bench. Like if he tore it or something like that, I don't think we'd see him on the bench. He was back on the bench. He was with the team in the timeout and stuff. I don't expect him to play, tonight against the Pelicans. Probably not the last 2 games, but I'm not going to rule out that he comes off the bench come playoff time. I don't think that's out of the question. Now, you could hear somebody by the time you listen to this podcast and they're like, hey, he's out for the rest of the season or something like that. And I wouldn't be shocked either. I just, out of how all that unfolded, I'm not saying like, oh, he's done. At this point, we're recording at 10:40 Central Time.
Central Time on Tuesday night. Yeah, I think we may have seen the last guy. I don't think he's going to be right. And I don't know at this point, with the amount of games he's been able to play, the amount of time he's been able to play, that he's going to be. He may play like one more game, right? He may get thrown in there one more time in a playoff game. But there's 3 games left for the Mavericks in the regular season. One of them's a back-to-back, so he's not going to play there. And then depending on where they play, there could be 4 to 7, or what if they get to the second round, then there could be a couple of games after that. So there's just not a lot of real estate left for him to cover. So yeah, thought that was interesting with JJ Redick. He hurt his heel on another play where the Mavericks make a good defensive play, and then the ref calls it the other way. There's all kinds of weird ref stuff in this game, and just weird ref stuff in general this year. It just seems
well, the refs aren't to blame in this game, though. This was a Mavs effort type thing.
I didn't say that. I just said there was weird.
Well,
ref stuff.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Like,
they're to blame, Isaac. They missed all those threes.
But coming up after this, let's talk about my
crew.
All right, let me reset the tees.
Pat
coming up
missed all these threes. Kevin
Get out of here.
Cutler missed all these threes. Benny Adams. I've never heard any of those refs.
Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about Kyle Anderson.
The nemesis. Dun, dun, dun. But before we do, got to talk about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. They're absolutely delicious. I actually have one right here. Boom. It's the golden ticket right here.
That honestly is the golden ticket.
Coconut brownie chunk, the best Built Bar that there is. It's absolutely delicious. To a T, every listener that has gotten Built Bar has sent me a DM at some point and said, these bars are actually really good. I thought you guys were just messing with me, and they actually are really good. There's a bunch of different flavors right now you can go get. Again, it's a protein bar. It tastes like a candy bar. Go get them right now. BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. Start racking up some points. You can get some discounts. You can get it if you rack up enough points. You can get a $5 discount on your next box. So start getting those points. The reward points starts adding up. BuiltBar.com. Promo code LOCKED15. Also want to tell you about BetOnline.ag. It's the place where you can put down some money. Hopefully you didn't put down money on the Dallas Mavericks tonight, but you can do that if you'd like to. Let's see if they have any lines for the Mavericks coming up against the Pelicans. By the way, Zion obviously not playing. Ingram hasn't been playing for them, so that's something that we can look into. So I'm not sure if they don't have a line for it right now, but they do have a line for Atlanta versus Washington. Another game that was a classic the other night when Westbrook got the triple-double record. And he had a 3-point shot. He had a shot to win the game at the end. Missed it. That was a pretty fun,
that was a bummer.
It was a bummer that he missed it, but it was a fun game to watch. The full Russell Westbrook experience. This game on betonline.ag. Hawks 5.5-point favorite over the Wizards. I don't know about that one. This could be a revenge game. We have all the weird, like, Kent Bazemore, Bradley Beal stuff. Oh, Bazemore is on the Warriors, but Bradley Beal may want to come back and prove something. He can, the scoring title, I guess, is within reach. It's kind of close, but anyway, be interested to see how the Wizards pull out that one. Bet Online, use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% welcome bonus to first deposit. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris. So we got to talk about the most important thing in the Mavericks right now, and that's Mavrelo Belovic. I'm kidding. All right.
Did you really want to talk about him?
No, not at all.
No. Okay, Kyle Anderson had a run, and congrats. That's all I'm gonna say.
He really sold it, Isaac. He really sold out, and he had a great run in this game. 15.
He was selling himself to the league, saying like, "I'm a good player."
15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And if you don't remember, 4 years ago now,
ooh,
it's been a while now.
Spurs.
He was on the Spurs then, but Isaac tweeted out a GIF of Kyle Anderson completely flopping on a play, and Kyle Anderson quote tweeted him and said, "This is how I was taught to sell.
My dad taught me how to sell a play.
My dad taught me this."
Okay.
Okay. Ever since then, he's been his nemesis. That's why people tweet at Isaac when Kyle Anderson does anything against the Mavs.
Thank you, Kyle Anderson. Thank you. Have fun to play in.
Do we want to? We talked about all the scenarios yesterday, but now it's kind of it's now pretty real, right? So, and the math gets a little bit easier now that there's less games. The Blazers and Mavericks have the same record now. And the Blazers have 3 games left, and the Mavericks have 3 games left. I'll actually just bring this up. And there's a weird wrinkle in this.
Hey, holler! Can we get our intern to throw these upcoming schedules up on the screen?
Okay, let me get our intern to do that right now.
All right, thank you. They're working on it.
Real quick.
We don't have a mic for them right now, so
yeah. Hold on, my soundboard was broken, so I couldn't get the intern. Here we go. The intern got him up. All right, these are the schedules for these 2 teams. The Mavericks obviously play the Pelicans tonight, Wednesday, and at the second night of a back-to-back. Then they play Toronto, who has nothing left to play for except for lottery odds. And then Minnesota, who they're still kind of trying, but they don't really have anything left to play for either on that weird Sunday where everybody's going to be playing at once. The Blazers play at Utah and then at Phoenix the second night of a back-to-back. So back-to-back against Utah and Phoenix on the road. And both of those teams still have stuff to play for right now at this point. I mean, I think that the 1 seed is still up for grabs, right? Yeah, 1.5 games you lead for the Jazz right now. So
and whoever lands at 2, you're potentially playing, the Clippers in the second round.
Right. And so that's pretty big right there. Those teams are both going to be pretty motivated. Doesn't mean they're going to lose. No, it doesn't necessarily mean the Blazers are going to lose both games. Or the Mavs are going to win all the games that are in front of them. But then the last game is against Denver. And this is so strange because depending on when the game is, what the other outcomes for the other games are. Like let's say the Mavericks and Blazers, they both win the first 2 games, right? And then the Mavericks win the Minnesota game, and then Denver-Portland is like 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever that night. All of a sudden, Denver gets to decide, do we want to play Portland? Do we want to play the Mavericks? Because they could sit all their guys and all of a sudden make a decision to where if the Mavericks or whoever wins that last game, if they're tied in the first 2, then that's who Denver plays, and the other one goes to the Clippers.
That's really wild to think about, and that's like the ultimate bulletin board material too. If you're Portland, whoever they want, if they set the guys because they want to play Portland, and that just gives extra motivation to Portland. But you have to guess that Portland loses at least one of these games against Utah or Phoenix, and at this point, you're hoping Dallas runs the table, right? I mean, no Zion.
Mathematically, the Blazers have to lose one of these games for the Mavericks to surpass them. They have to. Like, if they tie, if the Mavericks win all 3 of their games and Blazers win all 3 of their games, Blazers own the tiebreaker, and so the Blazers would be higher up. So the Mavericks need the Blazers to lose one of these 3 games.
Yeah, and, the Lakers are still in the conversation. They're playing right now as we're talking against the Knicks. So, Lakers can gain a little bit of ground on Dallas if they pull that game out against the Knicks, which you guys will know by the time you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, if they win the game, they're still one full game back from both of them. So,
okay.
They're still a little bit of ways back. It can still happen for them.
But there's no reason for Dallas to lose those last 2. Like, that would just be absolute.
Even the New Orleans one.
Yeah, even the New Orleans one. They've been a little feisty, but the Toronto Minnesota thing. I mean,
Isaac, they're playing James Johnson in crunch time.
Hey, I'm not gonna slander James Johnson.
They're playing Wes Iwundu rotation minutes.
Oh, okay. Dallas will win.
Well, I'm gonna look up when the last time Ingram's played because I think it's been a little while. That's kind of a team I have a hard time following. All these teams, man, with all these Ingram hasn't played since May 4th, so last week basically. I'm not sure what's going on with him. He doesn't seem to have an injury listed on here. He's day to day with an ankle.
But I would, the biggest storyline for Dallas right now, outside of just playoff seeding, bringing this back to the game tonight, is the return of KP. He's missed a decent amount of games now, and if KP does truly suit up tonight, what does he what does he look like?
Target date.
Yeah, it's the target date. Does he play these final 3 games? How does he look against New Orleans? Does he have a minute restriction? Who do they start? Do they go back to KP at the 5? Do they leave a rim roller in there with Willie? Does Luka even play? I mean, that will really frustrate some Mavs fans. He had the tough fall tonight, flipping over the scores table and stuff. So, I think there's a lot of questions going into that Pelicans game of who's playing, the minute restrictions, all of that. Not even beyond that, like positions and roles. And yeah, it's crazy. We're 3 games out. We have all these questions we had at the beginning.
Willie's played really well, man. Like, how many times in the middle of a game this season have I texted you and be like, Willie sucks? Honestly, right? Like, I've texted you that a bunch of times this season.
Evergreen text.
And the last couple of weeks, I thought he's been really good, and he's been finishing around the rim. He's been putting stuff up. He had that move against Tillman where he grabs
the left hook.
He grabs the offensive rebound. No, and he spins around and got that lefty layup.
Yeah.
On him. I thought that was a great play. That just stuff that he hasn't done. He may be like Porzingis in the sense that he needs a little bit of a warm up, right? Like he needs a little bit of a maybe even into the season, because after he took that break. Took the break. He was out for health and safety protocols for about a month. Ever since then, it seems like he's been a little bit better.
No, yeah. Oh, I think he's. I think comfort is the word I land on the most. He seems more comfortable in his role and what he's being asked to do. And he gives a little bit more, him and Dwight's pretty much asked to do the same thing, but he gives a little bit more height, a little bit more length, a little bit more agility defensively than Dwight does. And yeah. I didn't want to end it on a negative, but it's like
it was another experiment in the offseason where the Mavericks said, all right, we need with KP and then Maxey is potentially our starters. We need a couple of guys that are good rollers. And Willie's a pretty good roller and Dwight's a great roller. And
he's our best defensive center. That's what I was going to say. And whether you want to say if that's a thing for Willie or if you want to say that's more of a thing about the Mavericks, he's the best defensive center we have. Unless you want to call Maxey a center.
He is, man. So, yeah, there you go. That's the game. Let me know what you guys think about the Mavericks. End of their record, the end of the season. Who do you want to play? I mean, they could still play the Clippers for sure. That's up on the table. They could still play. They could still fall into the play-in at this point, right? That's still a possibility. So, anything can happen still at this point. Guys, let us know what you think. Comment on YouTube. Subscribe if you're not subscribed on YouTube. And then tweet us at LockedOnMavs and all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.